Air filter, not bad at all. Biggest issue you're going to run into with the air filter is water. So you've got good high snorkels, probably not going to be an issue. I know a lot of you guys like mud riding, like using them as boats. If you use it as a boat, you're going to get water in the air filter, going to run into all kinds of problems. Belt sealing seems to be good. A lot of people have issues with the one-way bearings. I have not yet. A lot of that has to do with clutch alignment. Make sure it's correct from the factory. If your machine creeps at all, you need to bring it right back and tell them the clutches are not right. They're going to tell you yes they are. You're going to tell them no they're not, because it wouldn't creep if they were. Engine-wise, I know a lot of people are having some top-end, lower-end issues with these. I have not had that problem with any of my Polarises. I would say it's probably because of the fact that everybody takes them in the water and swamps them. If you swamp your machine, doesn't matter who owns it or who buys it or who made it, it's going to break. Don't do that unless you want it to break. And if you do break it by doing that, don't come on the forum and say, hey, I just swamped my machine. It was up to the handlebars in water and it died and I started it back up and now it has an engine knock. I can't imagine why it has an engine knock. So, powertrain-wise, not bad. Adjustment on the shifter, which you'll notice mine is nice and crisp. I've got no play in it. There's an adjustment on these. It is down there. You do your adjustment and get that where it needs to be, you won't have any issues with it popping out of reverse. I had that issue when I first bought mine. It's just not adjusted properly from the factory. Adjusted properly from the factory, you won't run into that reverse problem. All right, this rear storage is great unless you have a passenger seat, then it's useless. It is not fully dry storage. Things will get a little bit dusty. Not muddy, but dusty. It's not bad, though, overall. The racks are a lot better on this than they were on my 570, although I still hate this plastic cover because you can't put any accessories other than the Polaris stuff, or you got to use straps, which then break, and it's a pain in the butt. Next thing, gauge clusters. These break all the time. They will cover that under warranty, but make sure you get it done first. This one has a new gauge cluster in it. Switch gear, as always, Polaris, great. This, junk. I have never actually broken one of these, but I hear a lot of people that do. I have the factory plastic one. It's very flimsy. I'm surprised it hasn't broken, but it hasn't. This 12-volt connector, another thing. I pack mine with dielectric grease. Again, going back to the connector thing, all of these connectors, they need to be packed in with dielectric grease. Moving back to the suspension, the rear suspension. All right, so here's a couple wonderful pieces of things that Polaris did. These sway bars, dumb. I can move this with my hands. You see how it slides? See that? Okay. Why they designed it that way is completely beyond me, but what will happen, and which is what happened to me, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see that rub mark on the sway bar right there? Yep, it rubs in the shocks because it moves. You're going to start hearing a clanking noise, you're going to look in the back, and you're going to see that it moved. The way you solve that problem, you take either a hose clamp or they make actual clamps for them. You put it on the outside there, on either side, that way it can't slide back and forth. Problem solved. Same thing back here with the bushings. We need to grease everything. Best thing about this is there's a couple of them in the back that are really hard to get to. There's one under the steering knuckle. Horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. I don't know why they put it there, the way they put it, but they did. So that's annoying to get to. So a couple of things that you want to do with your frame. Supposedly people have them crack. I haven't had that happen yet. Checo frame braces. They're a very good investment. If you're not beating on the machine a lot, probably not such a big deal if you're just generally trail riding, but if you're really going to hoss on it, you might want to look into those. Skid plates. Skid plates aren't terrible. They do work well. They're cheap, but they work. The only annoying thing, we get into it now, where Polaris put the metal skid plate is right here, but it's welded to the frame, so you can't take it off, which means if you want to do any maintenance to your diff or anything underneath that, you can't get to it. If you had just made it so that that could be removed like everything else Polaris, it would have solved a lot of maintenance issues of as far as getting to drive shafts, getting the stuff underneath, and also just generally cleaning it. I'm a little bit of a freak about my stuff. I like to keep it super clean. You can see this is basically brand new, and it will stay that way. Oil filter. Dumb. So the oil filter, you can barely fit your fingers in it, so you have to buy an oil filter wrench that's designed for it. Fine, but why not just make the hole just a little bit bigger so you can fit your fingers in it? You could probably hollow it out a little bit, do a little machining, but the point is, it's just another oversight that they did. The plastics on this are definitely not as good as my 570s were. I don't know what it is, but it's something about the way that they're coated or the way that they're produced. They scratch really easily. Again, most people don't care. I care because I don't like my machine looking like crap. That's pretty much it as far as problems with them. Fluids. Differentials, transmissions, engine oil. I change mine twice a season. I change it all twice a season. For a transmission, just run the Polaris stuff. For the front diff, run the Polaris stuff. For the rear diff, gear oil. And for the the engine, I run Rotella. 15W40, I believe, or 1550. It's one of those two things. Rotella is really good oil. I also run it in my Camaro, which is a 6-liter LQ4 nitrous car. I run Rotella in that. If it's good for this car, it's probably good for the Polaris, I would say. The front storage is great. I love it. Spare belt, make sure you got one. Make sure you got the tools to change it out. I've never blown one on either of my Polarises, actually. But again, it's all going to be dependent upon how you ride it. If you're thrashing it through the mud, if you're putting 40-inch tires on it and trying to drive over your grandmother's house after 16 inches of mud that fell out of the Smoky Mountains, then yeah, you're probably going to have some problems with braking stuff. So that's pretty much all I got on the Polaris. I'm sure there's going to be lots of comments and questions as to why I don't like these. I actually own one. I test drove a brute force before I bought this. I had a 650 brute force. I test drove the 750. It's not even close as far as suspension is concerned. So again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to tell you all the reasons why they suck and all the reasons why you should buy it. They're a really good price. Well, right now they're not because of the old scamdemic, but they were a really good price before. Not so much now. But that's going to pretty much conclude my rant. I'm excited for the flame. I'm excited to hear how many people hate me for saying all the things I just said. And also, I hope it helps out some people. So, good luck. Happy Polarising. And if you got any questions, let me know. More videos to come. Later, guys.